Hi, it's Dr. David Green, CEO of US Rehab Network. Today's topic are the top 11 ways to identify prescription drug abuse. This may be in your spouse, loved one, child, so on and so forth. Now, prescription drug abuse affects millions of Americans now. It's been on the upswing for over a decade now, and it really is an epidemic. Now, what people often fall into is that they often need the prescription drugs for a period of time and then end up kind of getting hooked on them and they just can't get off. Or it could be a situation where someone just gets dragged into it as a teenager and then just continues on into adulthood. Number one is if you start seeing constricted pupils. Opiates lead to constricted pupils while somebody is high on the drugs. So you may notice that. Number two is that a person may be tired, drowsy. They may be trying to have a conversation with you and they may be nodding off while they're trying to have the conversation. Can't remember what they were saying, so on and so forth. That happens frequently. Number three is that you may notice drug paraphernalia around the house. It may not be overt drug paraphernalia. You may not walk in with the person having, something strapped around their arm with a needle in it, but it may be something where they were snorting, they were chopping up prescription drugs and then snorting them, and they may have forgotten to completely put away, the dollar bill that was rolled up or the straw or the mirror or something like that. So you may just get hints along the way, okay? Now, a lot of times chronic prescription drug abuse leads to anxiety or depression or significant mood swings. So in and of itself, that's not really a silver bullet, but when you put it in context with everything else, it may be something that leads to the conclusion, along with bad temper. All right, if somebody's starting to fall off the high from the prescription drugs and they might need more and they might not have them handy, it can cause a bad temper when you're trying to get to the bottom of an issue. So another thing that can happen is that someone is so focused on where they're going to get their next high that they might start to neglect their personal appearance. Or they might start to neglect their work, might start missing a lot of days. They might start to, if they're still in school, they might start to neglect their homework or start performing poorly on tests because it just doesn't matter so much anymore because, getting the prescription drugs becomes the number one focus in the whole life. And this can also lead to money problems. Because their prescription drugs are not cheap, especially if they're not getting them from a physician, they're having to buy them now, they have a street value. So it can become the main focus and the money can start to get diverted to that and they can start avoiding the necessities, fixing their car, clothing and feeding their children. Something that's really necessary can become secondary to what their main focus is. Another one is you may start to notice a whole new set of friends. This tried and true friends that they grew up with or went to college with or school or whatnot, you may not see them so much anymore because they're hanging out with people who are also prescription drug abusers, maybe be hanging out with their dealer or something like that. But these are people that you haven't seen before. So that can be something that they start to see a lot of. Another one is they might start asking for loans. They might start stealing things. You may start seeing things missing around the house or whatnot. They may start selling their personal possessions to get the money to support their habit. So that's something that you need to be careful for. Another one is that the person may start to talk partying and drinking more than they ever have before. And this is just because that's so much of what they're doing, they don't have much else to talk about, really. They're not going to talk to you about their drug abuse, but they might talk about the partying and the drinking. So the last one, this is number 11, is long sleeves. So if somebody is not just taking them by mouth or snorting them, but they're actually injecting them, it might be that they're trying to cover up the track marks by wearing long sleeves. Because what can happen is the prescription drugs are potentially very expensive because they have a street value. So someone may not have the money to support that. They may start turning to something that's less expensive, like heroin, and then they may end up injecting heroin. So it's cheaper, but it may end up leading down the road of a whole spiral of addiction. So if you start to notice these things, it may be an excellent idea to press the issue and to see if you can get your loved one some help. So visit us today at usrehabnetwork.com. Please call us at 888-598-0909. We have a stellar network of nationwide rehab centers. We'll check your insurance verification. We'll help get you in with the one that's best customized to your loved one's needs. And all of them have a very, very high success rate for long-term sobriety from the abuse. Thank you very much for watching.